Hey y'all, oops, don't look at me. But I want to make a movie, or I mean, a YouTube video, sorry, about spooky action at a distance. Sorry, I have brain fog. I got like short-term memory loss. But anyway, I'm gonna be eating some grapes while I do this. But anyway, I wanted to talk to you. It's like a story time slash like theory time or something. But anyway, so if you don't know what spooky action at a distance is, it's like, I think it was Albert Einstein that like made that up, but it's like, it's hard. It's like under the microscope there's like something that seems impossible that happens like at a distance, and it's like spooky. It's hard to explain. But anyway, I'm gonna talk about how that like ties into manifestation. Also, I didn't really study that, but I get the gist of it. I'm not good at explaining. Plus, like, I'd really have to study it real hard to fully explain it, and I don't study, so. But anyway, I'm smart enough to know that those two are intertwined together. I like to call it divine entanglement. So, I don't know, but I was thinking about this last night. I was like, no, because, so, spooky action at a distance happens in manifesting a lot of the time, because when you manifest something, like, for example, like, I want to manifest a text, and I manifest the person saying, you know, no, here's an example. Here's an example of something that's happened to me in the past. So, one time, I had this friend who was a crackhead, and I was thinking in my head, I should probably get away from this person, okay? And I kept thinking it. But, here's why it was spooky action at a distance. Because this person, who was completely unrelated to the situation, had texted me a paragraph, and in the paragraph it had said the words leaves Riley, and in that context it didn't make any sense, but he had sent me that as I was talking to this guy, the crackhead, and his name was Riley, and I was like, what? No, so that is an example of spooky action at a distance in terms of manifesting, because it was pretty spooky and it was at a distance, and I, like, maybe it's like your brain cells are like firing off some signals, and like they go into the universe like microscopically, but we just don't know that yet, and then they come back like, and like people pick up on it somehow. I don't know. It's weird, but I don't understand it. And then there's also like this one thing that's in science. It's like, I don't know what it's called, but it's like this thing, this microscopic like orb that they had, like it was like this diagram of this microscopic orb that can like go through solid objects, and that's why I think ghosts can also exist, is because of that specific diagram that they had. Or it wasn't even a diagram, it was like this 3D reenactment. I don't know what they call it though. Look, I'm not the brightest star on the Christmas tree, okay? But I know a little bit. I know enough to know that these two things are intertwined together, obviously, somehow. I don't know how. But you look it up. Because I was watching, it was like this documentary on like metaphysical things. It was just really weird. Also, I'm dipping my grapes in chamoy and tahini, by the way, just in case you were wondering. But yeah, I don't know, man. If anybody knows anything about that, you need to let me know. Give me an explanation in a text form, because I feel like with me, I have problems like inhaling information because I have like short-term memory loss, but I feel like if I had it in a paragraph and I could just reread it, then it'd be much easier for me to, you know, absorb the information over time if I kept rereading the paragraph. But so, if you're like an expert in that field or whatever, just let me know, because, you know, spooky action at a distance. So, say I want to manifest, you know, some metaphysicist giving me a paragraph on this video. If there is one, it might be some sort of like spooky action at a distance type thing. Like, because what are the chances like a metaphysicist is gonna come on my video? I don't know. Does that make sense? I don't know. But anyway, but also there's this one time, if you're like a metaphysicist, there's this like one time, okay? This one I know more about. This was the Chladni plate experiment, okay? This was before I knew anything about the Chladni plate experiment. I had taken, I inhaled a bunch of marijuana, okay? It was just like the low-grade marijuana. And I was going to take some antidepressants. Something told me not to, but I didn't listen. That voice in my head said it was God telling me that, and I didn't listen. And so I got in trouble. So here's what happened. I started hallucinating, okay? This was before I knew about the Chladni plates. I knew nothing about that. Nothing. I never even heard of that when this happened. But my hallucination was at first a waterfall, but then I realized I was hallucinating, and then the waterfall turned into this red sand. It was bouncing around my vision. Okay, this goes into the Chladni place because when I was thinking about this, I was in the aura of fear. Okay, so that, and I could like see it. It was weird, and it was sand, like particles. You know, like particles created this red sand face, and they were like bouncing on each other, and it looked very angry, and I was like, oh my god, it's God. And I was like scared, okay? I was frightened. And then I had a bunch of voices in my head telling me all kinds of things. I was like, what the fuck? I didn't even know what they were saying. Then I went to my mom, and I was like, Mom, I'm hallucinating. But yeah. That moment was very weird for me because later I had found out about the Chladni plates experiment. And that experiment is when you change the frequency when there's a bunch of little sand particles on a metal plate, okay, and they vibrate around, they turn into different patterns. So what I'm saying is that my frequency is like, what is it? I can tell you, but I can't. It's so weird. It's like force field thing. Not even a force field. I don't even know. Not a barrier. That's not the word. It's like this. What is it? It's hard. It's hard to explain. It's almost unfathomable in human language. But anyway. It's like, God, it's so hard. So, what I'm saying is the Chladni plate experiment is not only with sand, I'm saying it's with like every particle within the universe is like maybe those particles, because it does make sense, because when I found out I was hallucinating and the waterfall turned into that face, I was scared, and it just changed. Like, my mood did a 360, and that's when the sand face appeared, and it was red. It was red sand, and I really remember that. That was scary. Like, I was like, what the fuck? But that wasn't the scariest moment of my life, but it was like, you know, God was mad at me, and, you know, made himself shown, and it was a bunch of particles. Okay, so God is a bunch of particles. But what I'm saying is that, like, you're made out of particles. I'm made out of particles, therefore you are a piece of God, okay? Makes sense. But, you know, there are, God, it's so weird. Life is so weird. God can do anything. So I think that, you know, there's laws in this universe that we don't yet know exist, like particle laws. Like, they can do all kinds of things probably we don't even know anything about. Also, just like, I mean, logically it makes sense. Like, human beings don't know all the answers. That's just not, we don't know all the answers. We won't ever know all the answers. If anything, when we find an answer, it'll probably lead to more questions. But anyway, I don't know if I'm even making any sense. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. But I'm sharing my story with you, so, I mean, it kind of ties into the Chladni plates. The Chladni plate one, that one scared me a little bit. I was like, what? Because, you know, it was later that I found out about that experiment, and that was the moment I was like, whoa. It reminds me of that sand face I saw. Because it was a bunch of particles that turned into a face of sand, and they were moving around. You know, so I'm thinking my frequency had something to do with that, obviously. But, you know, just like my whole mood. Like, maybe when you change, like, your mood, like, things around you change, like the particles around you or something. What? Is that even possible? I don't think anything's impossible. I'm scared. Oh my God, are ghosts real? Oh my God, I got a gust of wind right here. I'm scared. Okay, hold on. So, I'm going to tell you this other story. This kind of ties into, like, scary stuff. So, if you're, like, scared, just stop watching right now. But anyway, so this was, you know, kind of ties into, like, the paranormal. I mean, obviously, it is paranormal. So, here's what happened. I was listening to Ghostman one day, and I was like, is this the devil's music? Because he's, like, talking about, like, killing people. He's, like, talking about killing people, bitch. And I was like, oh my God, what if the devil's trying to talk to me? What if the devil is trying to get me to kill people? Because at that time, like, I was very angry at my ex-boyfriend, and I kind of want to kill him. So I was like, you know, that's probably it. And I decided, okay, to actually believe it was the devil talking to me through the music. So I was like, okay, well, the devil's music is here. Okay. And then, okay, I was walking around town for like 10 minutes listening to Ghostman, okay? I told you all this story on my other channel, but I'm retelling it because, I mean, it was still a piece of my life, and it's still frightening. Like, so here's what happened. I was walking around town. I started getting scared. Like, I did, because I was like, I believed in the devil for like 10 minutes. And then, here's what happened. Here's why it was scary. Bitch, I looked on the wall, okay, in like 10 minutes of me believing in the devil, and there was this moth, okay? This moth had a fucking upside down cross on its wings while I believed in the devil for like 10 minutes. And I was like, okay, I think it's time to stop. I think it's time to stop giving this thing energy, because obviously it's manifesting, and I don't want that. Goodbye. So that's what I did, and I never believed in it since, and I never will, because that was scary. Yeah. I mean, if that's possible, like, that's also a spooky action at a distance type thing. Like, in a way, yes. And that's why it was spooky. That was a devilish action at a distance. No, but it was scary, and I was like, what? Because I didn't believe in the devil. I'm not a Christian. And, you know, the people that do believe in the devil, they're probably scared, because I can see why. Don't believe in the devil. Don't. You're giving it energy. No. Don't. Don't do that. People who believe in that, no. I can tell you that. Just no. And ghosts, no. I don't believe in that either because I don't want that energy in my life. Because there's this point in time where I was like believing in next dimensional like demonic things. Like it was around that time, I'd say. And like these things started happening to me. Like I looked in my cat's litter box one day and I remember, I never told this story on my old channel, but I remember I saw this like face. Now, I know, you know, it's natural for humans to see faces in things, but here's why it's weird. You know, there's also like, I don't know if it was Hurricane Katrina, one of the hurricanes, like if you looked at it, you know how they have like the hurricane red thing, like that you could see like where it's going, like it was like this red face, and it was on the news and everyone was like, why does it look like a face? And it looked like a demented evil face, and it's a hurricane. Like I feel like that is like negative energy, like God's negative energy going, like, and we can see it in like a different dimensional way. I know I sound kind of crazy, but it does make sense. Like, it does. Because, I mean, it just does. It just does. Like, for example, like, there's also this documentary where there's, like, these faces in wood. And, like, people were like, oh, are these the faces of the people that died? Because they all looked like they were, like, these, like, it was like this abandoned house. And I guess people had died there. And then they did, like, this experiment or something where, like, I don't know what happened. I didn't really watch the whole thing, but like they did this experiment and something like they wanted to see if the faces were just, you know, the wood aging or something. So they like, I don't know what they did, but they tried to get the faces to appear somewhere else and they didn't. And then in the house they did. So I don't know. I thought that was weird. It's like spirits. Maybe it's a spirit. Like the hurricane was a spirit. And that's why we can see it in human form in the radar. I don't know. Like, how else would we see that? I don't know. I do think we are, like, more spiritual creatures than, like, we think we are. Like, I don't know. When I think human, I think a body. But that's not all I am. I feel like we are more than that. And I can't explain it. Like gods and goddesses kind of, but also like creators and destroyers and dreamers, all kinds of weird stuff. Explorers. It sounds like an MMO. I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, there's some weird stuff in this world. Yeah. And I experienced some of that. And I can tell you, that was weird. And I don't like talking about this, but there was this one time where I went camping with my ex-boyfriend, okay? This happened, I talked about it on my old channel. If you want to check out my old channel, it's under the same name as this one. It just has a little more subscribers, like 200 something, because I had it for longer. And I feel real bad because Google locked me out of my account. But anyway, so I went camping with my boyfriend. Okay, this was years and years ago when I was like 19. Okay, so I went camping with my boyfriend and we were in like his grandma's, like, it was like this big old acres of land. Okay, there's nobody there, no houses, just grandma's like land or whatever. So we went over there and we, you know, had the car, we went, put up the tent, and then we slept, you know. So I don't know if that's the day we had s'mores or not. I don't think it was, but anyway, that's not important. What's important is that after I woke up in the tent, I woke up and I was just scared. And at the time, I was next to my boyfriend, and, you know, he wasn't nice. Like, he was, you know, I wasn't either. We were both, you know, in a negative relationship, and I feel like that's why I was scared, probably, is because of him. But I didn't know it. I just thought I was scared. So, because I talked to my friend about this after. But anyway, I'll tell you the story. So I just woke up and I was scared and I didn't know why. Okay, practically. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm in the middle of the forest. I'm scared. What am I doing? So I just looked at him and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go like this, look around. There's nothing there because there's a tent around us. And I was like, okay, whatever. So, you know, my thoughts started racing. I was just like scared for whatever reason. I don't know. I still don't know why I was scared. I think that's probably why this ended up happening, was because I was in that energy. You know, like I said, you know how the face showed when I was scared? Well, this shit started happening when I was scared. That's why I don't like to get scared. That's why I don't like horror movies anymore. I don't like that anymore, because if I get scared, things tend to happen. Like, those things tend to happen. So here's what happened. So, you know, I just was like thinking about like The Rake, all those creepypastas I watched, because, you know, I was scared, and your brain does weird things when it's scared. It just starts going like this. And then here's what happened, okay? So I was like looking at him, and I was like thinking, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna ask him a question in my head. So I asked him a question in my head. It was a question. I don't know what it was. In my head, in my thoughts. And then I looked over. This bitch went, in his sleep. And I was like, what the fuck? This bitch just answered me in his sleep. Now, this has actually happened with my current boyfriend, too. My current boyfriend, this has happened to. Like, it wasn't a question in my head, but I was thinking about something, and he says, it depends. And I was like, what the fuck? But anyway, so this has happened to me multiple times with multiple people. But anyway, so here, we're not there yet. So here's what happened. So I decided, I was like, okay, that was weird. Let me ask him another one. So I waited a little bit, and I was like, okay, let me ask him another one. So I asked him another question. He did the same thing. Right as I asked the question, I was like, what the fuck? So I decided to ask him another one, and this one was, am I God? And then he goes, and then I was like, what the fuck? And that's when I, like, got chills. I started getting real scared. I was like, I'm in the middle of the forest, 3 a.m., I woke up, I'm scared, and now my boyfriend is answering my thoughts in his sleep, and now I'm even more scared, you know? And I was like, okay. And then I just started thinking about, you know, all the creepypastas again. Everything started getting, like, real weird. I was like, I couldn't believe what happened to me. I was like, okay. Because at that time, I didn't have that happen yet before. So I was like, okay, that's fucking weird. 3 times. 3 different questions, 3 times. I don't remember what the first 2 questions are. I remember what the third one was, because that one was the one that scared me. And here's what also scared me. Here is the scariest part. After I'd asked those questions, after he said I was God, I had this thought, and this thought was that I broke the matrix, okay? And right as I had that thought, I heard glass breaking in the middle of the forest, where there's no houses, nothing. And I was like, what the fuck? First of all, why is glass breaking in the forest at 3 a.m. where we're at? Right as I'm thinking I broke the matrix. Okay? That ain't normal. That's freaky. Okay, so I don't like talking about that. Like, I don't know. It was just a weird point in my life. And after that, like, I literally, like, I didn't go back to sleep. So I know I was awake. Like, I wasn't sleeping. I was awake. But yeah, it was just... it was creepy, like, fucking honestly, you know. And then there's another one, I don't even want to talk about that. It was when he was asleep as well. He just sounded like a fucking demon. And like I said, our relationship wasn't, and he was like speaking in his sleep, and I was like in this weird state where I was like half awake, half asleep, but I felt like I was getting dragged into sleep, but I didn't want to. But I was hearing him next to me, and he sounded like straight up the devil, and I was like, what the fuck? It was weird. I don't know. Oh, but yeah. But yeah, I think it was because, you know, we did have negative energy towards each other, and, you know, it was just not a good relationship. But I'm glad it's over. I'm glad we don't have to deal with that. I'm sure he's glad. I'm glad. We're all glad. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about that kind of stuff. So leave a like if you enjoyed. Leave a comment on weird stuff you've had happen, because I want to hear about it. I think that's interesting. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.